Here we are, our wonderful sports podcast, Tim and Matt, where we always go
off topic.
Okay, big news. The big news this week, of course, it's not up there right now. NFL draft. There it is.
There he is.
Roger Goodell, the most booed man in America. So, you called it. I'm going to throw this to you.
Yeah.
The master of figuring things out. Who went 1, 2, 3, 4?
Well, and it was exactly as everybody had said. Like the predictions had been. I mean, there was some speculation that a few trades may happen, but I think everybody knew Caleb Williams went 1, Jaden Daniels went 2, Drake May went 3,
and then Marvin Harrison Jr. went 4.
And that was the biggest question mark because there's a lot of talk about teams trading into that spot to get J.J. McCarthy, the fourth quarterback.
He went 10th.
10th. Which was kind of wild, and we'll get to that. But Arizona really liked Marvin Harrison Jr. They had him visit. They worked him out. He talked to Kyler Murray. They got along great.
I'm going to bring the draft order up while they're talking in case you're wondering what I'm doing. Go ahead.
And so it wasn't really a surprise that they took because they stayed put. They took him, right? The next big question was the Chargers because everybody is talking about. Are they going to trade out? Minnesota trading up and giving up their 2 first-round picks for him. Somebody else giving him a good package to get the 5 spot. They were fairly adamant that they were going to. It would take a ransom, king's ransom, to move out of the 5 spot.
Yeah,
and they're fairly adamant that they want to get back to being a smash mouth running team. So as fancy as I wanted Malik Neighbors or Brock Bowers, he's offensive talent.
Well, where did Brock Bowers go? Did he go before or after?
He went to the Raiders at 14.
Yeah, that was a steal.
That was a steal.
13 to the Raiders. Yeah,
because he was considered one of the top 5 people in the draft.
He had a late season ankle injury.
Yes,
and that influenced a bit there.
Yeah, but also not a need for any of the teams in between the Chargers and the Raiders to get him. So Chargers' thoughts are they could trade back. They can still get Bowers and have more picks. I like that idea, but they want to be a smash mouth running team. You got to work on the O-line. And they took probably the top player in the draft all around in Joe Alt.
Yeah,
he was
superb.
He's
a beast.
Massive, man. And the problem here, like Matt Paisley chimed in on your Facebook post. I like Latham instead. Latham was a right tackle.
Yeah.
Joe Alt's a left tackle.
Right.
Chargers have Rashawn Slater, who's a Pro Bowl left tackle.
So you're a killer on both sides.
Well, they've got 2 left tackles.
Yeah.
So one of them's going to have to go to the right side.
Yeah.
I've never played offensive line, and I hear that it's not a hard transition.
Yeah.
And they're going to figure it out. But they also signed their returning right tackle, Trey Pipkins, to a contract, but they're going to move him into guard. So they're going to have these 3 behemoths pushing that line.
Yeah.
And they brought in Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, who were the running back duo from Baltimore, who put up a lot of numbers last year before Dobbins got hurt and after he got back. They put up big numbers. They signed them both as free agents. So they've got a good running back duo that they can push forward.
Now, how are their wide receivers? Just for a point,
they don't have...
Your offense is nothing if your quarterback can't get the ball out.
100%.
So you go and get a sick O-line, and then you can do all sorts of things with your offense.
Exactly.
Your offense gets very sexy with a very solid O-line.
So they took a guy last year, Quentin Johnson. He didn't have a great year, but he was behind 2, like Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, who are 2 really good receivers. He didn't get a lot of time with the first team in the preseason. Didn't get a lot of time with the first team at practice. So when Mike Williams got hurt and he had to get thrown out there, he was finding himself. By the end of the year, he looked pretty good.
Yeah, takes time.
So they figure that he's going to be a good part of it. They got Josh Palmer, a Canadian kid out of Toronto, who is phenomenal as a third, right? And then they did pick up in the second round Ladd McConkey from Georgia.
Okay.
And
he is a
burner. He is a
wide receiver.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Nice. So
they grabbed him in the second round. But the Chargers in the third round, and I guess we'll get back to other thing. We're gonna go off topic because it's the Chargers talking about.
This the Charger hour.
This made me so happy last night. And when the Chargers came to the third round, and there was a bunch of offensive talents available, but they went with a defensive talent in Junior Colson.
Okay.
And he was from Michigan, where Jim Harbaugh, the coach.
Okay.
Coach. Jesse Minter, the defensive coordinator for the Chargers now, was the defensive coordinator in Michigan. They know this kid, right? And so here's the story behind Junior Colson. Junior Colson's from Haiti. He lived on a farm with his dad, and when his dad passed away, he had to go to an orphanage that his uncle ran, right? Because the dad knew that the uncle would take care of him and find him a good home.
Where's the mom?
Probably passed away.
Yeah.
Haiti, they get the storms and famine and whatnot down there. So war. It's just it's sad. So, so the Colson family was a missionary. Did a missionary trip to Haiti.
It's quite the story.
Goes there, meets him, falls in love with him, brings him back at 12 years of age, adopts him, brings him back.
That's late adoption.
To the States at 12. Starts playing football, right? At 19, they take him to Michigan for a camp, right? He's not graduated 2019. At 2012, they brought him over here. 2019, he goes for a camp.
Yeah, okay.
Right? And he's young, right? Leaves Ann Arbor, Michigan with a full scholarship.
Amazing.
They liked him that much. Played his whole career at Michigan with Jesse Minter and Jim Harbaugh.
Nice.
And they made sure they drafted him last night.
Is that exciting?
I'm very excited about that.
And that's the kind of love and support a kid like that needs.
So, and right now, it just happened. The 5th pick, the Chargers took Justin Ogbogbi from Alabama, defensive tackle. Monster in the middle. So they're working on both sides of the ball. I really like what they're doing in this draft. Right. Now, let's go back to the first round.
Let's go back to another team. Let's talk about something other than the Chargers.
Okay, so the Chargers take a good offensive lineman. Malik Nabers goes to the Giants, which was kind of interesting because they're talking about the Giants taking quarterback here, too.
They needed a quarterback. Who's the quarterback?
Daniel Jones is a good quarterback. Daniel Jones hasn't had any weapons
to
use, right? So they can get a new quarterback, but they still have no weapons for him.
Right.
So why not give Daniel Jones a few weapons, right?
He was quite the wide receiver.
Quite the wide receiver, like a generational talent. They're talking him and Marvin Harrison are 1A, 1B.
Yeah.
So Giants take him. I think that's a smart move. Tennessee takes J.C. Latham, Matt Paisley's guy, who I think is also a smart move for him. Number 8, the Falcons come up. Now, the Falcons just gave Kirk Cousins a 4-year, $180 million contract.
Money's only guaranteed pretty much for 2 of those.
2 years, $100 million.
Okay, so I want to say something. First off, thank you, Atlanta, for taking this pick, because otherwise, no one in sports would have anything to talk about post-draft. It would have been completely boring, and you would have nothing to talk about. Now, you're on the fence that you don't like this pick.
No, I am. Yeah, okay, I'm on the fence. I'll say I'm on the fence. I think that Atlanta has a chance, and they still do, to compete for the NFC South title, get into the playoffs. They got their quarterback they needed.
Kirk Cousins.
Yep, they had Matt Ryan for years. After Matt Ryan left, they've had a couple of years where they kind of struggled with quarterbacks and trying to figure it out. They get Matt Ryan, right? And I think was what drove that pick. Is that because Kirk Cousins only has a 4-year contract. 2 years of it's guaranteed. Kirk Cousins has injury history.
He's 35 years old.
Right? They take someone now that sits for those 2 years, learns for those 2 years, jumps in if Kirk Cousins gets hurt, and then when that 2 years are up, they can walk away from Kirk Cousins, and Penix knows their system. He's not a rookie.
I like this.
It's a very cerebral pick.
It's really interesting because I'm going to cross my legs and not knock everything over. Before the draft, everybody said Penix second round. Everybody said Penix second round. Everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. A few people thought that maybe, we talked Seattle might go for him, but they all said second round. When you say I'm going to take a quarterback in the second round, that tells me he's not NFL ready.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a given, right?
Yeah.
Suddenly they pick him 8th. Atlanta picks him 8th. Everyone's heads explode. Okay. Now watching Rich Ensign with one of those analysts on, what are they doing? He's got the best NFL Pro Tools of all the quarterbacks. He's ready to go right now. All of a sudden, everything changes.
Yeah.
I got 3 points I want to make on this. The USFL craps out. The 49ers, who already had Joe Montana, who wasn't done yet, went and got Steve Young.
Yep.
And he sat there for I don't know how many years until Joe Montana finally went. I think they traded him. Did they trade him too?
Yeah, they traded Chiefs.
The Chiefs. And then Steve Young stepped in, and what did they do? Won 2 more Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Then we go to, what's the next team?
Green Bay.
Green Bay. And Green Bay gets Jordan Love.
Well, before that, Brett Favre was there.
Brett Favre.
Aaron Rodgers.
They had Aaron Rodgers.
They take Aaron Rodgers.
And then they had
Sits for
Aaron
2 years.
Rodgers, and then they brought in Jordan Love.
Yeah.
And what happened? Aaron Rodgers found another gear.
Yeah.
Right? And then he won an MVP and then went off to the Jets and blew his Achilles and now he's crazy. And Jordan Love is killing it in Green Bay.
Yeah.
Go to New England Patriots. Tom Brady, generational quarterback. Who do they draft? Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah.
What happened? Tom Brady found another gear and ratcheted up like 3 more Super Bowls to the point they had to trade Garoppolo because this guy's not going anywhere, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's head's exploding because they took Kirk. He just gave him a contract. What are you thinking? You know what they're thinking? Kirk Cousins, wow. Hey, they just took some punk who thinks he's going to take my job. Well, I'm going to show you how that kid's going to take my job. And I bet you he's going to have 2 or 3 banner years.
Yeah.
And he's going to get older, and then Penix is going to step in, and they're going to have a whole system. And I think that is the savviest pick. I think the Chargers pick, getting the big O-lineman.
Yeah.
And they're,
Smart.
It's coin toss between Latham and Alt. Pick one. I think they're both.
Yeah. I agree with you.
They're neck and neck. And then I love Penix at 8. And then I loved what the Seahawks did, and they took that D lineman at 16, Byron Murphy II, who is just a beast.
Wow. and you've got some in between there's some really interesting things that happen. So after Penix, the Bears took O'Dunes, who is Penix's receiver out of Washington.
Right.
And I mean, if you got a 1A, 1B, he's 1C, or 2A type thing, right? Because Romo Dunes is a great receiver.
Massive.
Right?
Yeah.
So now they got Caleb Williams and Romo Dunes. They're set on offense. They brought in DeAndre Swift.
They won.
Oh.
They won the draft day. The Bears.
Well, maybe day 1.
Yeah.
Day 2, we're going to talk about that in a second here because that goes nuts, right? I really like what they did there. And then at 10, Minnesota switches with the Jets. Just moves up 1 spot.
Yep.
Just so they can make sure because McCarthy's sitting there and they need a quarterback.
They did.
And that's the quarterback they wanted. And they were able to keep their 23rd overall pick.
And a lot of people are scratching their head that J.J. McCarthy went 10th.
Yeah, I know.
Before Penix, after Penix.
After Penix.
Yeah.
So he goes 10th, and then Minnesota was able to keep their 23rd overall pick and brought in Brian Thomas Jr., the receiver from LSU.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of getting a quarterback, getting a receiver for that quarterback, getting a quarterback, getting a receiver for that quarterback. They can grow together. They can work together. These are very talented players. Brian Thomas Jr. would be a top 10 pick in any other draft.
And of course, the Jets, don't take a quarterback, despite the fact Aaron Rodgers is in his 30s and just blew his Achilles and doesn't have a lot of years in him. And this got rid of Zach Wilson. Oh, look, Bo Nix sitting right there.
No, they took an offensive tackle.
They did, which is good.
Because if they got Rodgers for 2 more years,
they got to
protect him, right? And then Oregon takes Bo Nix. Nice pick.
No.
Denver took Bo Nix from Oregon.
Yeah.
Nice pick. And then here's the scary pick for anybody in the AFC West. Brock Bowers went to the Raiders. And now the Raiders don't have a quarterback. Sorry, guys. But they've got some very good offensive talent for whoever they can get in there.
Yeah.
Right. And now chips are going to fall and things are going to move around. And they did have the guy last year.
Derek Carr?
No, Carr went to New Orleans.
Yeah.
They had Garoppolo. He's gone now. And they had the guy that stepped up. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Darn.
Yeah. Maybe a bit of a game manager if you want to. But, when you got all the other pieces.
It works. And it wasn't. And then after that, New Orleans takes an offensive tackle. That's 14 picks, all offense.
That's wild.
Unheard of.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is when Bo Nix went at 12, 6 of the first 12 picks, 50% of the draft was quarterbacks. Unheard of. Never seen before. So it was a very interesting day.
It was. And then, you're a Seahawk fan, and you're like, oh, we didn't get that quarterback. What are they going to do? Well, all that top-rated defensive talent that should have gone in the first 10 is just sitting there. So, Leila Letu, Latu.
Yeah, Latu, yeah.
Latu Latu.
Yeah.
From UCLA, who's from Hawaii.
Yeah.
He was my favorite moment in the draft because he's with his whole family. They got the Hawaiian shirts on. They're all wearing the leis, and the whole extended family is wearing the same shirt. And he's sitting there crying, and he's got a pin on, I guess his grandfather or something.
Yeah.
And he kisses it, points to the ceiling. Tears are coming down. That's what I like to see.
And it goes to the Colts, which is a great organization.
Very good.
And that needed an edge rusher. But that left, it left a plethora of options for the Seahawks. They're like, oh my goodness, we're going to get one of the top players in the draft. And Brian Murphy, the second, I don't know if I really love that, except for the fact they didn't need an edge, they need a tackle, right? And Dallas Turner and Jared Verse for the defensive line ranked higher than him, but they're edge. Yeah. And they needed somebody for the middle. And Byron Murphy II out of Texas, best defensive tackle on the board.
He's a
monster in the middle.
He's huge, and he's got that low center of gravity.
Yeah.
So he gets low, and he can just, like, from his knees, can spring out, shove two guys out of the way, and still nail the running back. Like, the guy's, he's really good. And then Minnie picks up a defensive lineman, so they got their quarterback, and now they got a defensive lineman, a defensive end, or, he's on the defense. So they beef up their defense, they beef up their offense, and if I'm a Vikings fan, I'm pretty happy right now.
So
I'm pretty happy.
And here's who I think's winning the draft right now.
Who's winning the draft?
Is the Washington Commanders.
Okay.
And you got to hear me out on this.
All right.
Because Washington traded away a lot of players this year.
They did.
They realized things weren't going the way they wanted to. They traded away a lot of players. They had the second overall pick to get their quarterback, but they ended up with 5 picks on day 2. 3 picks in the second, 2 picks in the third. And then they go out there. They replenish their defensive line. They get one of the top cornerbacks. They bring in a tight end who's just going to be phenomenal. They throw an offensive guard out there. And then they bring in the bloodline. Luke McCaffrey. Ed McCaffrey's son, Christian McCaffrey's brother.
Okay.
Luke McCaffrey. And I think that Washington is winning the draft right now just because of the way that they traded off players that weren't getting it done for them to get these picks and be able to restock a ton of players. So they've got, 3 more picks left in the draft where they can really kind of shore up their O-line and their D-line, work on their corners.
And a lot of O-line, D-line guys never go in the first round anyway.
No.
The bread and butter's in the second and third round.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Your depth.
Yeah.
Your depth is in the second and third round.
Yeah.
And then the later rounds is you're looking for that diamond in the rough, right? And that's going to be today.
Brady.
Yeah, Tom Brady, Brock Purdy. Yeah.
Well, that's the point I want to make. So everyone's creaming themselves about all these quarterbacks.
Yes.
And I think about some of those dynamic quarterbacks we've seen in the past 10 years, 15 years. Tom Brady, 6th round.
Yeah.
Brock Purdy, dead last. Wilson. Seahawks. Russell Wilson, 4th round.
Yeah.
You look at the past 10 years of drafted quarterbacks, and so few of the top guys really pan out.
Yeah.
Really, very few pan out.
Well, and here's the thing is, I think the top quarterback from this draft still hasn't been picked yet.
And who's that?
Spencer Rattler.
Okay.
Spencer Rattler, quite the history behind him as he started at one school.
Transfer portal to another.
Yeah. So he started, I can't remember what school he started at. Transferred portal to South Carolina. I think it was due to injuries or whatnot. And because South Carolina is such a smaller school, right, you don't get that big stage, USC, Georgia, Alabama, LSU type.
It depends.
Media coverage.
Sometimes that works for you.
Yes.
Because you can get picked in the later round by a better team.
Yes.
Andre Reed played for a drive-through tiny university.
Yeah.
And he's going to the Hall of Fame with Jim Kelly for like 3rd overall for most pass receptions, that dynamic duo. But, it's always a crapshoot. No matter what anybody says, it's always a crapshoot.
Yeah.
The only thing that really made me scratch my head was Buffalo trading with KC. Like, that was weird.
Yep.
Like they got some later picks for it, but
Yeah.
they gave up a chance at a good wide
They
receiver.
traded out twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they needed a wide receiver. So
But they got a wide receiver.
Yeah, but did they get a good wide receivers? They could have got, you know what I mean? It was kind of weird, right? If you want to trade your pick, hey, we're really suffering on our O-line. We need a massive
Yeah.
O-line guy who's willing to move their O-line guy. We'll give him our 32nd overall pick kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
But to swap picks or give your pick up with KC for later picks, it doesn't make a lot of sense. It's kind of weird.
No, and I mean, if you take a look here at where we go here, rounds.
Looking at the computer, we need to get the computer locked up to our thing.
Yes,
so
we
know.
They ended up taking Kean Coleman, who a lot of people say he is position ranked 10th, overall ranked 37th. They took him at 32, grade 86. He's a smaller guy. Well, I know he's a big guy. Sorry, 6'3", 213 pounds. The thing on him is he doesn't get a lot of separation in college. He's not really good at getting separation off the defender.
Okay.
Right? He can catch the contested balls. Right? He's picking balls off of these guys,
right,
pulling them away, wrestling them away. That's going to be harder to do at the next level. So he's kind of one of those guys that could he? And that's where the Chargers actually jumped up to take McConkey when they did that, because they're now thinking the guy that we want is McConkey is going to go. So they traded up to get the second pick of the second round from Georgia because they really wanted this kid. And so it's going to be interesting how that's going to play out. But at the end of the first round, I think they traded with KC because KC wanted Worthy. Right. KC's had receiver problems, right? Nobody could catch a ball last year. The only guy that could is now in jail. So as long as they got Travis, they're good, right?
Yeah, he's not getting any younger.
Well, and you got Mahomes there. Patrick Mahomes just makes things happen. He's a wizard. Unbelievable.
He's a wizard.
But you know they trade up. They get Xavier Worthy, so they get a really good receiver. What's their name? San Francisco took Ricky Parcell, who's another really good receiver. And
now, San Francisco, everybody thought they're going to move Ayuk and Deebo Samuel.
Well,
they didn't go anywhere.
No, San Francisco has said no, we're not, and everybody's like, but they don't. But they're not happy. They're not getting the ball enough, and they're like, and we like the fact that we got 15 options on offense, so we're going to keep them under their contract. So, but they bring in this other receiver, young guy, because I think contracts are starting to be up for those two this year, anyways. Yeah. Like I think Ayuk's only got a year left on his contract.
Wide receivers, I mean, they're good, but you're playing with Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
The quarterback kind of makes the wide receiver. I maintain that Steve Largent was always better than Jerry Rice. Yeah. Jerry Rice played with two of the best quarterbacks on planet Earth, and Steve Largent played with crap. Yeah. And he still racked up the numbers, so.
Yeah.
That's my contention on the whole thing. Everyone is going to disagree with me, but whatever.
So, talking about the show, the draft, right? And like you said, I'd rather spend 3 hours watching Josh Allen throw 32 picks than watching 32 picks.
This is a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is.
It's a lot of fun to speculate before, and it's a lot of fun to speculate afterwards, and everybody's an expert.
Yeah.
And once the season starts, 2 years from now, half these guys, you're not going to remember their names.
No, and it's funny when you watch, like, I'm watching the draft, and they've got all the teams in their little corrals, right? All the fans.
It's kind of weird, like, it's because every other draft you watch, the teams are in the room, and they go up and they make the selection.
Yes, they changed that years ago.
Oh, okay.
They changed that years ago, so now they phone it in from their own war rooms, right? They've got their whole staff there.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I kind of like everyone. All the tables are there, and you see guys get up and they see the talking.
Yeah.
And what's going to happen, and everyone's speculating. It makes it a little more drama.
But now they turn it into a big event.
Yeah,
right.
The amount of people watching that thing
was massive.
That was crazy.
But so you got the front section is 32 corrals, and they bring in fans for each team and put them in this corral, and they're all decked out in all their gear, right? So when the team makes the pick, it goes on them, right? And so, but the funny part is you see these guys, they're all excited, and then their team takes like an offensive guard from a Div 2 school that no one's heard of, and they're like, yeah, who's that? Right? But
it makes it fun.
And then but they take somebody that they don't want them to take. You can see the anger in their face. So it is quite humorous watching the draft.
Gosh.
So moving on from the draft, sticking with football. I'm going to give a shout out here to a young guy that I coached, Samir Graywall. I coached him years ago
in
Abbotsford Falcons. His dad, Gadish Grewal, does peak fitness and training. Super guy. My kids went through, my one son went through training with him. My stepson did too. And he runs them hard, right?
Yeah.
Like he's a good trainer.
Another Valley kid sticking with the Huskers. I love it.
Going to the Huskers.
Bob
Very
Reese,
happy
man,
about
you're my
that.
hero.
So
I started with the Huskers pre-Bob Reese, so maybe 7-8 years ago. And it was the sit down and avoid team for kids in the Valley. No one wanted to go anywhere near them. Bob came along, and that first season was a disaster, and that second season went 6-4.
Yeah.
And now you get Valley kids from Chilliwack, Abbotsford, Langley. Everybody want to come to play for him. Still hasn't gotten over that hump of the playoff win, but
I called their first win in like 3 years.
I was announcing.
You
We
were
were there.
announcing?
We were there.
I
No, it was 7 seasons.
7 seasons.
7 seasons, and
Yeah.
it was probably the most exciting thing I've ever seen in my life.
I thought it was like they won the Super Bowl.
They're
Like,
down 31-3 at the half.
Yeah.
And they won at 33-31 in the dying seconds. It was just, I get goosebumps just thinking it was so exciting to watch.
And the fact that it was their first win, people were crying.
First
and
game of
hugging
the season, and it's just a way to start. Oh,
Yeah, it was exciting. BCFC football is exciting.
It's
Wherever
great.
you are, if you're in Prince George, Kamloops, Kelowna, Lower Mainland, check out a game on the island. We got teams all
West Side Warriors.
West Side Warriors,
And
Raiders, Nanaimo Raiders.
Nanaimo Raiders, yeah.
Vancouver Island Raiders.
Vancouver Island Raiders,
Yeah,
yeah,
Raiders.
Nanaimo.
Yeah. We got Langley. We got the Valley. There is some really good football. Go check it out. $10, worth it.
You know what? I mean, I haven't gone to see a Seahawks game yet, and I haven't seen a Huskies game yet.
Yeah.
But I've gone to a few Lions games, and it's great.
Yeah.
But you got to drive for, Vancouver's, as a crow flies, is an hour. Traffic, it's 2 hours.
Yeah.
You got parking. CFL tickets are actually quite reasonable, but it's in a big stadium. You're kind of away from the action. Getting down to the States through the border, it's great, but it's expensive. It's a lot to do it in one day. Sometimes you got to get a hotel room. Honest to God, I really enjoy the Huskers. It's like 5-10 minutes from my house. It's $10.
It's good football.
It's good football. I help coach some of the teams. You obviously coach, so you know the kids. You watch them grow up. There's a nice emotional connection. They're from your hometown. It's a really fun day, and it's inexpensive and it's fun.
Yeah, 100%.
It's always fun. It's always fun to watch. So yeah, I love BCFC.
Totally great.
Okay, so now what are we doing?
Muay Thai.
Muay Thai.
Muay Thai.
Muay Thai. Muay Thai. So my son, this is me, shameless plug for the family. My son, he was 13, so he's coming on 5.5 years ago. Finished up his football journey at junior bantam, and at the start of that season, James Bergen, who now runs traditional, I always want to say Chilliwack Muay Thai, traditional Muay Thai here in Chilliwack, had a free demonstration for all the kids for one of the first practices.
Right.
So, he was up there with one of his crews, and they took the kids through some Muay Thai moves, and they all had a lot of fun, and they loved it. So Benny's football journey ends. It's around October, November, and I don't want to play football anymore. Perfect. No problem with me. What do you want to do? I don't know. It's like, well, you're not staying home and playing video games every day. Did you like the Muay Thai thing? Yeah. Do you want to do it? Okay. He is there 5 days a week, every week. Yeah. You had to ask him to do the dishes 14 times. Clean your room was weeks. Dust your room months. Take a shower days. Muay Thai, we gotta go. Hurry up, Dad. We gotta go to Muay Thai. Wake up. We're gonna move. Now he has his own car. He's gone. He absolutely loves it.
Yeah.
So he was gearing up for his first big fight, and he just turned 18 last summer.
Nice.
So the way it works in Muay Thai, you have something called interclub, which is basically exhibition. It's one round. Everyone goes at 75%. No winners, no losers. You're in a ref, in the ring, you have people around you. You sort of just get your feet wet.
Right.
You work on skills. You train a lot, but you don't really get practical application until you're actually sparring. And so the first couple of interclubs he did, the first time he did it, he was 16. and you have to find him another 16-year-old in his weight class.
Right.
And Muay Thai in BC around that time was still in its infancy. It still is.
Yeah.
So at the last minute, Fridays at a GW game, crew was there because Tyler, his son, played, and they tap him on the shoulder. Hey, we got a kid. Be there tomorrow. He can fight. And we were doing provincial, so I didn't get to see it.
Right. Oh, yeah, I remember you telling me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he went, he did fine.
Yeah.
He did okay. He was hitting at about 30, 40%, not 75. So it's, it takes time. A few years later, I get to see him fight again. He's about 50%, and crew was like, you know what? He did really well. He did a lot better than the last time. So there's progression, right? So now we go into Richmond, and it's provincials, and he's 18. So it's whoever's in your weight class, regardless. The guy was new to Muay Thai, but I'm pretty sure he had done martial arts before.
Right.
He's 30 years old, covered in tattoos. I'm like, this isn't good. So we're going to run the clip, hopefully for not too long, because it's painful for you to watch. That's the other clip. That was last week.
Okay.
So we'll get the two, but we'll get the right clip up there. Wayne's working on his own here, so he's going to figure it out. He got rocked, and he lasted one round.
Yeah.
And he sat down, just getting not really pulverized, but he was overwhelmed. And the guy he's fighting against was actually a super nice guy.
Yeah.
And once he realized he had this, he kind of backed off a little bit.
Yeah.
And then Benny just sat down on that bench, and he's like, I can't go in there. Like, he was just mentally defeated. Right? You know as well as I do, sports is played from the neck down, and it's won from the neck up.
Yeah.
Mentally, he did not know how to prepare himself to get into the ring for this. It's a punch in the face.
Yeah.
You're getting punched in the face. So he got rocked. We're going to get the right clip up. And then last week, we'll play that clip. He got back in for Interclub. Now, what's interesting about last week, and here's the clip here, he had 5 minutes to prepare. He didn't hit. That's him in the red shorts. Blue helmet, red shorts, red gloves. That's not even his equipment because he wasn't supposed to fight. So he just went to hang out and watch and support his friends. And that guy in the black, his opponent didn't show up. So crew's like, Benny, he's your weight class. Let's gear you up. They had to wait to warm up a mouth guard because he didn't have anything there. And he stepped in with 5 minutes notice, and he was a different fighter. Just taking his shots, throwing it back.
Yeah.
Like he just brought it. And I didn't see it because he wasn't fighting, and I had a bunch of other stuff I had to do that day, so I didn't bother going over. And I was kind of busy. I had a long day on Friday. I was kind of tired. I'm like, well, I don't want to have to skip something. We did our show live, and then, I had to run some errands. I'm like, oh, I'm just too tired. I don't want,
Yeah.
But then he fought, and I showed up and had a potluck that night, and they was raving about it.
Yeah.
And it's so nice to just see that progress.
Yeah.
That progress. Now, the problem is he's going to Chicago in the summer, and he gets back on the Friday at midnight, and then that Saturday evening is the next Gladiator night where you go full on. So I don't know if he's going to fight with the jet lag.
Yeah.
Get away for a week. You can't train for the week prior anyway.
Yeah.
But
what's he doing in Chicago?
he is visiting. He's got a buddy of his that he met online playing video games named Raphael.
Oh, yeah.
And him and his family, a really nice kid. He's not some weird 40-year-old living in his parents' basement. He's actually the same age that I've met him because him and his sisters came to Vancouver for a day.
Oh, okay.
And they're super nice. And so he's going to go spend a week in Chicago with his buddy from video games.
Nice.
Really nice. He's super excited because the Blues Brothers is like our favorite.
Yeah.
So he wants to go check stuff out. Joliet prison if he can, and really fun. So,
Don't be wandering around after dark.
No,
Went to Chicago once, made that mistake.
They live in the suburbs, but an hour outside of town.
Yeah.
So they'll just day trip it in, and of course I'm like, you got to have beef ribs. The hot dogs are really good. It's funny, really good. Deep dish pizza.
Yeah.
Make sure you get deep dish pizza. Oh yeah. So I'm more excited about it than he is, but it's his first big trip as a kid on his own.
Yeah.
So we helped him book the ticket. We're going to drop him off. He'll fly on his own, get to see Raph, come back. Yeah, it's going to be a really good trip for him. But I don't know if he can fight.
Yeah.
I don't know with the jet lag and all that kind of stuff. I don't know what's going to happen. So we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. All right. Thank you very much for showing that clip, guys. And we are going to have our show from the gym one of these days. It's just we have to get organized on it. We wanted to do it for Interclub, but there's rules with Muay Thai BC. They don't want live streaming because guys know they're live streaming. They're supposed to go 75 and no one's supposed to win. And, they don't want to showcase. So, whatever. But we're going to do it live. So, But thank you very much for showing that. I really appreciate it. Next
He
topic.
did great. He did really good.
He did. He did.
Hockey in Utah.
The Stormin' Mormons.
My God, the Stormin' Mormons.
The Brigham Young Guns. This is just
Well, I mean, and here's the problem.
gong show of NHL expansion.
So, Phoenix, Arizona got a team, couldn't support the team.
It was a nightmare. Ownership,
Ownership.
stadium.
It was very shaky all around. So it's just not working out. The NHL took it over, was running it for years there. It just wasn't working out. Utah has come, Salt Lake City has come and said, we want a hockey team.
Right. And it was like a mystery owner. No one knew who he was. They finally revealed after they signed the deal.
And I think they're going to do well there. They're getting a decent team because
They're not terrible.
they're not terrible.
And Salt Lake City in 2002 hosted the, or was that 2002? They hosted the Olympics?
yeah. So, yeah.
Maybe not 2002, but around that time. They hosted the Olympics.
Yeah.
And that's where Team Canada finally won a gold medal at the Olympics and a great game against Team USA. So they have an arena,
Yep.
and it's an NHL-style arena, right?
Yeah, 02, Winter Olympics.
2002 Winter Olympics. So, yeah, so they've got a facility, they got an owner, and Utah, outside of college football, I don't think they have...
Nothing. Well, Salt Lake City Jazz.
Jazz,
Basketball.
Yeah. He
Yeah.
bought the Utah Jazz.
Utah Jazz.
Yeah, so this guy owns the Utah Jazz.
Yeah.
And I think he has the WNBA team.
Yeah.
And he owns a few things. I can't
Yeah.
remember. I don't even know what the guy's name is. So hockey's going in Salt Lake City. And you know what? Honestly, I hope it works out.
Yeah,
Because Arizona was just a gong show from day one. Just a dumpster fire. Almost as bad as Atlanta, but not quite. The owner in Utah, the owner in Arizona didn't go to jail for...
yeah. And it's
What's the name of the guy?
Jazz owner Ryan Smith.
Ryan Smith, yeah.
Yeah.
So he owns sports franchises. He likes to own,
Yeah. So really, it was they suspended operations in Phoenix. He acquired the assets of the Arizona Coyotes in lieu of an expansion draft because it was going to be an expansion team. They wanted to put a team there for a while there, right? And so in lieu of that, he gets all the Coyotes players, equipment,
Everything.
Zamboni, the whole 9 yards.
What are they going to call them? The Coyotes?
It doesn't say yet. They haven't set a name yet. And I think it's there was a
Not allowed dancing? There's no dancing happening in the...
so
Thank you for not dancing at our games with your team.
They're going to copy the NBA and steal a name from New Orleans, the Jambalayas, right? So, but there's a lot of jokes about what the Stormin' Mormons was one of the jokes.
Bring him young guns,
yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how they do. It's like you said, they've got the facility, which Arizona never had. They tried. They did a bunch of different things to try and get it to fly there, and it was a number of years.
Yeah.
Right.
It was a good run.
Yeah, but it didn't fly.
No.
So now they're gonna go to Utah.
And Utah actually, I think, has winter.
Yes.
As opposed to Arizona, which
Yeah.
doesn't. It's further north. So
And yeah, the ice was always horrible in Arizona because it's hard. I was watching the game last night between the Kings and the Oilers, and there was a Lakers game the night before, and the ice that was out there was like they were skating through Slurpee.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's tough when you get these warm weather places. And you got an event the night before, and it takes 48 hours to get that ice hard.
Yeah.
But you're trying to do it in 36.
and they put boards over the ice.
Yeah.
They put the boards over the ice, and then they play on the boards, and they take the boards off. But I saw a Tragically Hip concert at Maple Leaf Gardens years ago, and they put the plywood down over the ice, and your feet were numb by the end of the concert because you're standing on uninsulated wood.
Yeah.
And but it's it'll be good. A lot of people want to go to Quebec City or something, and there's no ownership in Quebec City.
Yeah.
There's no corporate. It's a government town.
Yeah.
There's talk in Saskatoon they wanted to get the St. Louis Blues for a while,
Yeah.
and it fell through at the last minute. The league just nixed it.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have worked.
There's
The
not enough
economy in
people.
Saskatoon was terrible for a while.
Yeah.
42 home games.
Yeah. No, I mean, and that's
Yeah.
I think the problem that you're getting in Winnipeg now is the same problem that they had before.
They don't go to the games.
Yeah.
And they're winning, too.
Yeah, they're in the playoffs. So
I don't get it.
Speaking of which, NHL playoffs.
NHL playoffs.
We got the Canucks are
Won.
up 2-1.
Very nice.
Edmonton's up 2-1.
Very nice. And
Winnipeg is how's Winnipeg doing?
they're playing tonight, I think. I haven't been watching.
I didn't
Like I
know
said,
they've
I'm a
been-
Habs fan. May 7th is the draft. That's the only day I'm excited about.
They played last night and they lost to the Avalanche, and
Okay.
they're down 2-1. So that's a Canadian team that's down 2-1. Boston's on top of Toronto 2-1.
Nothing new there.
I mean, you want to root for Canadian teams. I'm not rooting for the Oilers because they're playing my Kings, right? But
I
the
like
Kings,
to see the Oilers win it again. I think it'd be a really big thing for hockey. My dream scenario would be like Edmonton, or Winnipeg or Edmonton taking on Ottawa in the Stanley Cup final, just to make Gary Bettman's head explode. The two smallest, most obscure teams in the NHL.
Vancouver, Toronto.
Not Toronto. No. We would never hear the end of it. I mean, they won one playoff series the past 20 years, and it's like they won the Stanley Cup. No. No.
It's funny. They won that second game against Boston, and Austin Matthews just put the team on his shoulders. Game two, yeah. And he played phenomenal. That guy is something else.
He is.
He's
He
a
really is.
warrior.
He's 69 goals. He's a really great player.
Yeah.
But, the playoffs are a different animal. And I don't know what it is. They just suck. I mean, there was like 5 years in a row, they were up 3-1 and they blew it.
Yeah.
Last year, they were up 3-1. They finally won it against Tampa, which if you were going to beat Tampa, it's going to be last year because they had gone to the final so many times. They're all really banged up. They're an older team.
Yeah.
And they got lucky. It bounced off a skate and went into the net. And they literally won it by accident. I don't get it. It's just terrible. Oh,
Well, and this year Tampa's not having a great go of it. I
no,
think the Panthers,
Tampa's in rebuild mode. They've
Yeah.
had so many great teams with so many amazing players.
Yeah, and that's how it happens.
Yeah.
You get your ebbs
and
and
you got to
flows.
rebuild. You got to rebuild.
All right, so our favorite segment of the show.
Jays suck.
All right, and
Did they ever last night?
because they were playing the
Dodgers.
Dodgers. 12-2 final. 12-2 final.
Awful.
And this is my favorite part, right? Shohei Ohtani.
Shut up.
wa-
La 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 la.
was deciding between
La 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 la
the Jays
la.
and the Dodgers. And he goes to the Dodgers. So
Of course he's going to the Dodgers.
gets his first at bat in Toronto,
Getting
Rogers
booed.
Center, right? Gets up to bat, getting booed by the Jays fans.
Which was crappy. It was a dumb thing to do.
But that's fans for you. And
Yeah.
they do that. He expected it. He had a smile on his face when he plunked the fourth pitch over the right field wall. I love it. Shohei, show them.
Showtime.
And-
Toronto, in order to win, you have to have good hitting.
yes.
So multiple players at 300 or flirting with 300. And you have to have consistent starting pitching, and Jays have neither. And it's just a nightmare series. It's a nightmare. They blew Game 2 against Kansas City Royals. Guerrero made an error at first base, which should have been a routine out for third out ending inning, and then they allowed 3 unforced errors or three unearned runs to score, and they lose 3-2, and they're up 2-0, and then they just blew it the next 2 games, and then they go back home against the Dodgers with Shohei and Mookie Betts, and it could have been a great game. And Chris Bassett is just pitching terrible this year. He had a really solid season last year. He's a veteran guy, and all the pitching is just crap, except for my little Japanese guy and Yusef Kikuchi.
Yeah.
He's the most consistent pitcher they've had in 3 years, and I don't know.
Well, and
No one's hitting.
And that's the thing. Like we were talking last week, how the Jays, where there's a glimmer of hope. Well, that glimmer's been snuffed out. They've lost 4 in a row.
Yeah.
They've lost 4 in a row.
So, and it's a long season.
Yeah.
But unless
And the Dodgers on the flip side of that,
Killing it.
won 5 straight.
Yeah.
They're starting to really get their stride going again. And I mean, it's not horrible.
No.
But we want to go and talk about where are we here? No, that's
what's my Korean guy in San Francisco doing?
Hold on. We're gonna cover something else off that you wanted to get at me about in pitching at the Dodgers. And we got Yamamoto, ERA down at 3.54.
He's doing really
That's
good.
after having that 45 ERA the first game of the season.
Well,
right?
and he's doing great. He's pitching really solid. And he's got a brilliant team behind him.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Freddie Freeman is like an afterthought, and the guy's hitting over 300, getting really timely hits behind Mookie Betts and Shohei.
Yeah.
So he's playing on a really good team.
He
and
is.
It helps that you're playing on a good team, and you're not like, God, I got to win this game or we're going to lose.
Yeah.
You can have an okay day and still win 6-5.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and that's the thing. Like, he gave up, that 7 runs in that first game, right?
In Korea.
Whatever. In total, he's given up 11 runs.
Yeah.
Earned runs. Yeah. So since then, 4 runs.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, he is the star that they thought he would be. He just had a rough go of it.
You know, when Mark Shapiro and I always want to call him Chet Atkins. Ross Atkins came in from Cleveland.
Right.
I was really excited because Cleveland always did a good job of getting diamonds in the rough and drafting really well. And when they started, they got Alek Manoah, who's, of course, having a terrible time in the minors with a bad shoulder.
Yeah.
And it was, Vladdy was already there, and they got Bobo, and they got, all these young players. And I was really excited. And in the past few seasons, you've just seen that downward trend.
Yeah.
And it's just the leadership's just not there. And they panicked. Bo Bichette hurt his knee in the stretch last year.
Yeah.
And they panicked, and they moved a pitching prospect to St. Louis to get Mike DeYoung, who they DFA'd 3 weeks later. They gave up a pitching prospect for nothing. And meanwhile, Kevin Biggio can play second base.
Yeah.
And they've drafted nothing but infielders for the past 3 years. And you can't you don't have a guy on the bench that can come in and just play second base for you.
Yeah.
What is that? They gave 3 pitchers for 2 guys that aren't with the team. And Jordan Hendricks had a bit of an ego, wanted to be the closer. It's not going to happen. So he took off and went someplace else. I mean, that's the gamble for any team on a rent-a-player. But it's just been demoralizing to watch. It's horrible.
You see it in hockey all the time. You see it in baseball all the time. They'll trade a player because they're not doing well, so they'll trade it to a team that is doing well. But the player's only got a couple months left on the contract.
Yeah.
They give up a lot of their future to get a couple of months. It doesn't pan out. There's not a connection there. There's no re-signing. The guy's gone.
Yeah.
And it was really for nothing because it didn't put him anywhere.
And they didn't win anything in the playoffs. If they went deep in the playoffs, you could have said, well, at least they got something.
Yeah.
They didn't. And it's just...
One of the things, you go back to hockey, I'm watching my Kings, and they got Dubois from Winnipeg, right?
Yeah.
And he was playing great in Winnipeg, he was a goal scorer. He goes to LA, and he looks just like a Keystone Cop out there. He's coughing up the puck, he's behind the play, he's not looking good, and I'm really hoping that LA just lets him go after the season, figure something out. But
you got to realize, when you listen to guys like Joe Siddle, who's the analyst with the Sportsnet and the Jays.
Yeah.
If you don't go out and get a good gun in the stretch when you need something, it tells you the team that you don't want to win. They can say, we can win the guys we have now. They don't believe it. The players don't believe this. And he goes, Joe Siddle was playing I can't remember who he was playing with, and they needed an outfielder. And there's a guy available they could have gone for, and they didn't go for it. And everyone just this is BS, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
And people are just pissed off, and they didn't even try for the rest. So when you go out and you get a player, it boosts the team. It's yes, they believe in us. We got a guy. Let's do this. And it pumps everybody up.
But you're talking about the panic and going out and doing that in a panic is what screws teams because they give up the future to that. If you build your farm team in your system like the Dodgers do, like the
Jays
Yankees do, the Jays used to, you build your farm team, as that guy goes down, you're like, don't worry about it. We got this guy that can at least fill in for now. Right? We don't have to panic and give up the future.
5 games.
For 5 games, yeah. So, Jung-Hoo Lee, San Francisco.
Yeah, I thought the Jays should have signed.
He's only hitting 271, 2 home runs, 7 RBIs.
271. He's only hitting 271.
Okay, so it's better than
my
half his
outfield
face.
is hitting I think Dalton Varsho is the best outfielder right now at 230.
Oh, wow.
Everybody's hitting just over 200. I would take 271. How many home runs?
2 home runs, 7 RBIs.
7 RBIs. That's pretty good. That's way better than Kevin Kiermaier. That's way better than George Springer.
Yeah.
And he's 25 years old.
Yeah.
Jays should have signed that guy. As soon as San Francisco said, no, we don't want Shohei, and they signed that guy, I'm like, all right, San Francisco, you're a genius. They're not doing that great for the season.
Well, they're not bad.
They're a rebuild, but that's a smart piece for a rebuild. A 25-year-old proven guy from the Korean League.
Yeah.
271 is, I would take a 271 hitter right now.
See, the thing
no one's hitting 271. Your guy from the Dodgers, the redhead. And the Turner's hitting 3-something.
Yeah. Yeah. He's Dodger trained, right? So good
Dodger
player. Dodger trained.
Yeah. And you know what? Going back to the ownership.
Yeah.
Kim Ng was the executive vice president of baseball for the Miami Marlins.
Right.
And she took them from cellar dwellers to the playoffs.
Right.
And then after she got them to the playoffs, they went ahead and hired executive vice president of Major League Baseball operations. And she was going to be the number 2. It was a slap in the face to her. She took a dead franchise and took it to the playoffs. And she should have been the number 1 person there. And they made her the number 2. She said, see it, I'm gone. Fire Mark Shapiro, bring her in, get her. That's what I want. I want Kim Ng running my team.
Well, and I'm just going to point this out one more time. Dodger trained. She was an intern with the Dodgers and grew with their system for years.
Everybody starts somewhere.
And there's plenty of pictures of Tommy Lasorda and her sitting side by side talking baseball.
Talking shop.
Yeah, talking shop. So
came in, her parents were China, and she's just a brilliant mind.
She really is, yeah.
And it's an old school mentality, and the Jays need to fire Mark Shapiro and get her in, get her people in, and just get some new energy in that front office and get guys winning again. Because this is a nightmare. It's demoralizing to watch.
Yeah.
Vladdy and Bo Bichette, the cornerstones, are hitting just over 200. And I know if they leave the Jays and they go to another franchise, they'll both be hitting over 300. I just know it's going to happen. I just, ugh.
So,
okay.
With the
next topic, or do you want to go?
Well, draft here. Seahawks, the 118th pick in the draft, 18th pick of the 4th round, took Rice Knight, linebacker from University UTEP. I don't know what that is.
UTEP.
Yeah, I don't even know what's
University of something.
We got to figure that out.
So that's going to be a state college. That'll be a state college. UTEP. Let's find out. Now I'm curious. I'm going to Google on my Google Chrome machine.
University of Texas at El Paso.
Bang.
Yeah.
State college.
Yeah.
That's diamond in the rough stuff right there.
Yeah.
You know what? We should write that name down. We should write that name down and come back a year from now and see how he did.
Yeah, Rice Knight. So
yeah,
he looks like he's 14th overall linebacker. But, I mean, they're shoring up their defense, and then they're on the clock right now with another pick. So we'll have to see what they do there.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah. And Chase Claypool still hasn't been signed yet.
No, but we knew that was gonna be an after the draft thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because typically with free agency, because free agency is only 6 weeks before the draft. Everybody kind of grabs at the big names and everything, and they talk to all the other guys, right? And then they're like, okay, we'll let you know after the draft. And they see what they get in the draft. Undrafted free agents, and then they start filling holes.
Yeah.
So
I'm hoping he goes to Buffalo. I really want to see him in Buffalo. You want to see him with the Chargers?
I do.
Or the Seahawks, but the Seahawks don't have a court. Well, they got Geno Smith.
I think the Seahawks or Buffalo would be better fits for Chase. Selfishly, I'd like to see him with the Chargers, just because I know.
Justin Herbert's the thrower, and he needs a thrower.
Yeah,
he needs a thrower. Anyway, so sticking with football, perfect segue. Reggie Bush got his Heisman Trophy returned. Now, you give us the background on Reggie Bush. Who was Reggie playing for USC with Pete Carroll?
Pete Carroll at USC, got drafted, went to Miami.
Something like that.
Yeah, New Orleans or Miami.
Yeah.
Was a great running back. Won the Heisman his last year there, the whole 9 yards. After he's in the NFL for a couple of years, they start doing an investigation. Turns out he got some gifts that he wasn't supposed to.
From an agent.
Their big thing at USC, I think that's when Carroll left and went to the Seahawks.
Yeah, Carroll ran a really good program at USC, and there were some shenanigans going around that people, you knew it was happening, but you couldn't prove it.
Yeah.
And when things started a little bit too close to the bone, Pete Carroll had a brilliant opportunity to go to the Seahawks.
Off he went.
And won a Super Bowl. So it worked. It really worked out for Pete Carroll.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Reggie,
USC gets hit with all these fines and things. They lose a bunch of games. Reggie has to get back his Heisman Trophy. They're all, the games become losses.
Yeah.
They're just wiped off the board.
Terrible.
And it was a real black eye for USC, who then they actually were one of the front runners, the real trailblazers for watching for that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But then also when the NIL talk, right, name, image, likeness reimbursement for the players started to come up, USC was one of the ones up at the forefront of it, saying, "Why haven't we done this before?"
It's, you know what, I when it first started coming along, I was against it. Because the way I saw it, the players are getting these, university in the United States can be exorbitantly expensive.
Yeah.
A state college in the state of Michigan is $15,000 a year in tuition. California, I think it's a little bit less, it's $5,000 or $6,000.
Yeah.
But minimum wage sucks. I mean, coming up, when you come from nothing, you're living in tough circumstance. You're going to come up with $5,000-6,000 a year just for tuition to go to your state college. It's really expensive. And athletics is a way for kids who can get them to get into university and get an education. Now, unfortunately, not everybody goes to college to get an education. They go to play sports. They don't really go to class. And there's that debate, but still. And now kids who come from nothing, who don't have any money, who have a lot of pressure on them from all their family to pay their bills.
Yeah.
They take these. These agents come along and they give them money, and the boosters give them money, and some of them get caught, and it's really ugly. And what this does, NIL, what it does, in essence, they get to own their name.
Yes. Yeah.
And the perfect example is Johnny Manziel, who was at Texas A&M. Johnny Manziel won the Heisman Trophy in his first rookie season, freshman season at Texas A&M. Texas A&M sold a ton of Johnny Manziel apparel. He never saw a dime.
Yep.
They used that money to rebuild their football stadium.
Yep.
Right? He didn't get a dime. And what he did with a buddy of his, he teamed up some shady character, went to hotel rooms, signed a bunch of stuff. When you've signed it, I'll give you the code for the safe. And there was tens of $1,000s of cash in there, which then they had to figure out how to launder. Because you have to.
Yeah.
It was all very dirty.
Yeah.
And you know what? The best example for this, for why NIL matters, a few years ago, a young woman with UCLA gymnastics, her floor routine got a perfect score, and it got millions of views on YouTube. And she turned around and said, everybody made money off of that except me.
Yeah.
And there's no multi-million-dollar contract for young gymnasts coming out of university. The money's there.
Yeah.
Everybody's making it but the athletes. They get to own their name.
Yeah.
So if the university sells a ton of jerseys with, Matt Macri on it, Matt Macri can now get a cut of that.
And that's the thing. Like, you think about it. You say they're getting their scholarship paid for. They're getting their education paid for,
which matters. But
the university's making millions,
tens of millions,
and you're getting thousands.
Yeah.
It wasn't equal there.
No.
So, so now that this NIL's come into play, the Heisman family has said, if it's okay now, then we're not punishing him for back then. It may not have been against the rules there, and there was a lot of question marks around the whole Reggie Bush thing. I think it came down to a car. It's so long ago, I don't remember the details. I think it came down to a car that was loaned to him to use.
Yeah, and his family got some money or something.
His family got some stuff paid for.
And he came from nothing, man. He came from a really tough neighborhood in San Diego. And so many of these kids, if you watch the Last Chance U series on Netflix, you watch the football one, especially Eastern Mississippi Community College, a lot of these kids will say, I got to go to college and I got to get an NFL contract. My whole family's counting on me. And a lot of these kids, they're finishing high school and going to even junior college. They'll tell you, this is the furthest anybody in my family has ever gone in education. And so now NIL is getting knocked because what you're seeing is all they care about is their NIL. And it's not about the team and the sport anymore. It's about marketing themselves. Yeah. And so what they need to do is just tighten up the rules a little bit so there's a bit more focus on the team, but you're still able to make some money.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. Like this transfer portal, the NIL, everything's becoming.
It's gotten too big.
It's gotten too big, and unfortunately, that's the way these things grow. You can't put it back in.
No.
Right? Now that it's out, you can't put it back in.
No,
right?
But you can adjust the rules. And
tighten things up.
Deion Sanders coaching
yeah.
at Buffalo, who was a shameless self-promoter.
Yeah.
Even he says, "I like it, but we just need to work the rules a little bit."
Yeah,
so there's a bit more balance there.
Yeah.
Tom Brady's come out and bashed it.
Yeah.
But I mean, Tom Brady grew up in a middle-class family in San Francisco with mom and dad had good jobs, and he was a middle-class guy who went to Michigan. And sure,
yeah,
it's easier for you to say, Mr. Tom Brady, who's still making tens of $millions a year in endorsements even after his career's over.
Yeah.
$300 million contract to be an analyst on Fox Sports.
Yeah.
You can say these things, but
Yeah.
you know what? When you're Olivia Dunn, an obscure gymnast at LSU, you have a right to make some money off your name.
100%. I totally agree with you there.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is the $300 million contract to Tom Brady.
Yeah.
He's taking it all.
Yeah.
Right? And he's making it, it's just become this beast that just keeps going and going and going. I love that the Dodgers have Shohei. I love the fact that they're paying $700 million for him. That's ridiculous.
I know.
We got kids that won't eat today, but somebody's getting $700 million to play baseball.
And
it disgusts me.
And the Jays did a $400 million upgrade to Skydome, which was getting pretty old.
Yeah.
They didn't tear it down and rebuild it. A burger, fries, and a Coke at Rogers Center is $29.95. The food is so expensive. You're paying, your ticket prices are going up, your jerseys are going up, your hats are going up. It's gotten really expensive.
Yeah.
So
history's repeating itself
because
you're going to look at there's going to be the haves and the have-nots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. But going back to obscure sports.
Oh, love the obscure sports. Off topic.
Off topic. This is hilarious. So we upgraded our cable package at home, and our old one was done, and we got the new one, and we got like 40 new channels.
Yeah.
Which nobody watches anymore because of streaming.
Streaming, yeah.
So nothing's on streaming. I'm home. I'm bored. I flip through, and I have on my cable package the World Alai,
Alai, yeah.
Alai League. We have it. I have this on my cable package. This is the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. The only time I've ever even seen a clip of this, it was 1980 something, and I was watching the intro to Miami Vice. They had a clip of it. How would you even describe this? It's kind of like lacrosse and racquetball.
Well, you used as kids get those scoops.
Yeah, you go to the beach.
You go to the beach, you fling the ball, the
Yeah.
wiffle ball, as far as you can, and then you try and catch it, and you fling it back.
And you could really put some movement on it because it was a wiffle ball, and the craziest thing about this, they only play it in Miami.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't think there's any other. It's the headquarters is Miami. I don't know. It's so weird. No one talks about this.
It's phenomenal.
At ESPN3, and they're still playing it, and they mostly do it in Miami. It's just, I don't even know how they play. I don't even know the rules, because that ball is going outside those red lines, left, right, and center.
Well,
this guy just took one in the kidney. Oh.
Yeah, that's a hard ball.
And they use both ends of the thing.
Yeah. So my understanding is it's kind of like squash, where a
racquetball squash.
Yeah, you hit the ball, it hits the wall. You got one bounce, and then you got to hit it.
Okay.
Right? The side walls are okay, but the floor you can only let it hit the floor once. You catch it, then you got to throw it. So in here they throw it really quick, like they do these spinning throws. And you text me last week, and you were like, World Alai channel, whatever.
This is crazy.
So and I'm with my granddaughter. I was watching my granddaughter for a bit. So I go in there and I turn it on, and she's in her swing, and we had Disney Mickey Mouse Funhouse on.
Right.
And so
you turn off Mickey Mouse.
And she's kind of like, and she went silent, and she's staring at this, and she's like, use your head going back and forth like this. And I'm like, and I watched it, I'm like, oh my God. And I was enthralled. But yeah, I started to kind of figure out the rules, and it was insane.
I think I'm pretty sure it's mostly played in Miami.
Yeah.
It's as regional a sport as you'll get.
Yeah.
And hurling is in Ireland.
Yeah.
That's a big thing.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you a story. I'm on reading the New York Times, and with UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Everybody knows what those are, right? So if you have something like the pyramids, and the Grand Canyon.
Right.
Okay, so you go to the UN and you say, well, I want to make this a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Perfect. You protect that site forever. No one's allowed to touch it. You can't develop there. You can't build anything around it. It's got to stay the way it is forever. Sistine Chapel. But you can take other things and make, there's a subsection. So in Napoli, where they invented pizza and espresso, they're trying to make espresso a part of this UNESCO sub thing.
Right.
One of them is hurling in Ireland.
Oh.
Because it's so unique
Yeah.
to Ireland. And of course, the birthplace of espresso, what you get in Napoli is very different than Starbucks.
Right.
The steam has to be a certain temperature. The milk has to be a certain temperature. It has to go in at a certain time. It's a science to getting proper. So this, I'm sure, if we Google it, is either on the list or is there for this UNESCO heritage to protect it.
Oh.
Because you can't change the rules then, and you can't make it more showy.
Right.
Look at basketball 15, 20 years ago or 100 years ago compared to now. It's a totally different game.
Yeah. Football.
But with this, they keep it the way it was 100 years ago, way it started, and it protects it for generations to come.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. Yeah, it's super cool.
I was enthralled with it. I kind of picked up the rules a little bit on it.
Yeah.
But I think it threw my shoulder out watching it.
I've never played racket sports. I never even played tennis. A little bit. I goof around a bit for tennis and badminton and stuff.
Yeah.
But you don't really pay attention to the rules. So I'm not a squash guy. I'm not a racquetball guy.
Don't do pickleball?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Don't try it. I hear pickleball is more addictive than cocaine.
Oh, I bet it is.
Yeah.
Remember Eugenie Bouchard, the Canadian tennis player, the really pretty girl?
Yeah.
She's now on Team Canada for pickleball.
Oh, get out of here.
Yeah, that's what she's doing now. And she's doing really, really well. She's rebuilt her career through pickleball.
So pickleball was brought into retirement homes for people that liked playing tennis but were too old to anymore.
Yeah, because it's tough. Racket sports are really tough on the joints.
Yeah. So you got the bigger paddle. You just back the ball back
and it makes
forth.
a lot of noise.
Now it's super competitive.
It makes a lot of noise. And there's a guy in Chilliwack who hunger striked because they're using the tennis courts outside of his house. And the knocking back and forth was driving him crazy.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so he's complained to the city, and they're like, no, we're not going to shut it down. People are outside getting exercise.
I'm going to do a hunger strike.
To get rid of people, why don't you just pick up a pickleball racket, go play with them, and get off your ass and get some exercise and fresh air. Try that. Instead of bitching and complaining the whole time. Remember the tennis courts in Kitsilano Park?
Yeah.
The neighbors, the rich and hoity-toity neighbors with their $15 billion houses got the basketball nets taken down because the basketball made noise.
Bothered them. Yeah. So
get some exercise, you fat
Seahawks.
turd. How are they doing?
Pick 21 of the fourth round, AJ Barner, tight end, Michigan.
Okay.
Yeah, very good pick. I'm kind of upset about this. I was thinking, maybe the Chargers will grab him in the next
tight
round.
End, yeah. And remember, Taylor Swift's boyfriend went in the fourth round.
Yeah.
Travis Kelce.
Well, Barner was one that I was really, really watching.
Okay.
He's a solid guy.
We're going to wrap up. Thank you very much. We love having you. We always go
off topic.
See you next week.